Welcome to another edition of the No Trade Clause podcast. I'm your host, Ali Shafique. I have a very special guest here, SBC alum, just a friend of the program, friend of the show, Corban Ford. How you doing, man?
I'm doing great, Ali. Thank you for having me on, man. I'm just doing swimmingly. Perfectly cool night in Arizona.
Mm,
And the weather out here is very, very rarely can I say cool. So I am doing just fine right now.
I love it, man. Enjoy it. Enjoy it. Um, and first and foremost, I just wanted to, let people know this episode is going to be sponsored by Bet99. They are a betting corporation that we actually have a partnership with. And we've recently started to partner up with them in terms of building out content. And so check out Bet99 and check out the partnership that we are starting to build with them. So I guess we'll start to just kind of hop right in. It's been a fascinating 10 games. A lot has gone on so far. But frankly, some might say not a lot has gone so far. The West has sunk, or stunk, and the East has been actually pretty deep, and this is the first time we've seen something like this in I would say a decade, maybe longer than that. We've always been, so accustomed to seeing the Western Conference being a powerhouse with a lot of the teams. But I guess we can start here. What are your kind of observations so far throughout the league? Maybe something that's really caught your eye. Could be a team, could be a player, could be a rookie, could be whatever, anything that has really struck a chord with you.
I think for me, Ali, the first thing I mentioned is more like a general observation just from, watching games like we do.
Yeah.
The parity in the league.
Mm,
I think that that's something that stood out last year, was really notable. I'm sure you remember just the sheer amount of blowouts that were happening. Like there were games that were after the second quarter, it was like, I've seen enough. I mean,
yeah.
you're only watching to like pick up trends on a player, observations on a new coach's style. Like it was
Yep.
stuff last year that was what you were looking for after a certain point in time in the game. This
Absolutely.
year, it's so different. I mean, you have maybe three teams that stand out above the rest in terms of win-loss record. The Bucks, obviously 9-1.
Mhm.
Then will be the Jazz, surprisingly 9-3, and the Cavs 8-2. Like those are the three teams there. After that, it is a glut of teams with similar records,
Yep.
between 3-5 in the Eastern Conference, or rather, if I'm even going to be more dramatic, let's do 3-8 in the Eastern Conference, separated by like 2 wins. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
On
Yeah.
the West side, almost just as dramatic as well. Two losses are the difference, and a win or two. You have four teams mired in some 7-3, 6-4, 5-6 morass. Like it's definitely been different to see everyone legitimately have a chance, except for some teams where the bottom will get to, at
Mhm.
coming away with the win at almost every game you watch. And I'm not gonna lie, it's refreshing to see, but also definitely hard to, is every team gonna be this good? Probably not. There's gonna be some
Yep.
sinking. So in the meantime, it's hard to kind of filter out, okay, what's noise and what is legitimately just strong, consistent play from a team that maybe we were, sleeping on.
Absolutely. Yeah, you bring up a good point because, the first 10 games, there's a lot of noise. And, like we were talking about before the podcast even started, this phase of the season is more so like we're just accumulating data, we're just accumulating trends, and we're kind of, as the sample grows, we'll start to eliminate the noise. And one of the things that I've noticed is younger players and rookies specifically, and I'm going to use Paolo Banchero as an example, but guys are coming into the league a lot more ready. I don't know about you, but their skill sets are so refined. Um, and I'm not even talking about dribble moves. That's just a part of the thing. I'm talking about their pure basketball IQ. Could be on the offense or defensive end. I mean, you look at Benedict Matherin's ability to score, just purely as a scorer. Paolo's ability to be an all-around force. And then you also look at how big he is as well. I'm starting to see a trend as guys are coming into the league. They're just much, much more ready with the game. And I feel like maybe the last few years we've started to see rookies and young guys come into the league, and I'm just blown away by how deep their skill set is and how quickly they are able to turn from rookie to star, from starter to star to star to superstar, if someone like Luca or Trey Young, someone like that. But frankly, it's been really fun to watch. Even AJ Griffin, who coming off of injury, is now starting to percolate for the Atlanta Hawks, and that's been something that I've really enjoyed so far.
I agree completely. And like you said, it's
Yeah.
so much more than just coming in with the skill set. Oh, we've seen over the
Yep.
last couple of years,
Yep. Yep.
players in their bag, as it
Yep.
were. But Paolo Banchero, I mean, just touching on him for a second, the dude's been an absolute beast. And like 23.5 points per game, 8.3 rebounds, 3.6
Yep.
assists, making an impact
Yep.
all across the board. Um,
Yep.
it's kind of crazy to see in terms of knowing when he came in, okay, what he possibly could be. I was definitely a lot more high on Jabari Smith Jr. Just thinking again in my sense that ability to shoot the ball, 6'10" frame, playing defense would fit more in a plug and play style. But Ben
Right.
Carroll's just going in and making it his own, and it's wild. But like you said, it's not just him. Look at Benedict Mathurin. You
Yep.
know, just under 20 points per game. Just being so aggressive, coming off the bench doing this, scoring in double figures in his first 9 games. Like
Yep.
these guys, like you said, these young players are coming in and automatically knowing not just from a skills perspective or a physicality perspective, but the mental as well, and tying it all in and picking it up on the fly. And this isn't just rookies. We've seen this from second year players as well.
Yeah.
We're seeing third year guys pick it up as well. And they're just,
Tyrese.
yep, Tyrese being a huge example, right?
Yeah.
Both Maxi and Halliburton, right?
But I
Like,
was just about to say, there's Tom Stew.
exactly. Just
Tyrese
getting in the
squared.
fold, Tyrese squared, and they're immediately just taking the lead and
Yeah.
making their mark, and
Yeah.
that's something I think that is adding to that too. Like, every game you're going with, even guys for the Kings have had the misfortune of the referee's whistle, over the last, or the referee, football, not football, officials whistle over
Right.
the last couple of games. But Keegan Murray, I think, has been perfect in terms of coming in and playing a role, and being a solid rotation player for a team. Yeah, not a breakout star or anything like that, but you can say the same for Torrey Easton of the Houston Rockets. They
Yeah.
they come in, they're steady, they know what their role is, and they're fulfilling it to the best of their ability, and it's making an impact. Eason, third in rebounds and sixth in both points and shots among rookies right now. Like, the guy's been pretty solid too, So I agree with you completely. It's been so fun to see rookie ladders and
Yeah.
guys that you were just looking at 5 months ago, before the NBA draft, a little bit longer than that, 6, 7 months ago, and
Yeah.
seeing them now kind of fulfilling roles that you may have envisioned when you were looking at them originally.
Yeah, absolutely. It's gonna be a fun rookie of the year race. I really
Yes.
do. Yeah. And I
I'm
think
going.
we are reaching a new era of young talent in the league. And you were talking about parity. I'm not sure where expansion leads, but I think and I don't know if you've noticed this. This is a trend that I've noticed,
Mhm.
but there are a lot of really bad benches in the league.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah,
it's a
yeah.
little rough. And
I'm a Lakers fan, Ali.
yeah,
I'm a
yeah,
Lakers fan. You know how this goes.
yeah. We'll touch on the Lakers soon.
No, it's all good.
But like I think of the Pistons, I
Mhm.
think of some of the teams that are even trying to contend, now I think it's
Suns
context
bench, but
based. Yeah, the
injuries have,
Suns
yeah,
bench,
injuries have
injuries,
played a role, but
exactly.
it's
The
still been not.
Warriors, the Warriors are playing
Yes,
5-man lineups
a lot of
where
younger guys, but yes, it's
exactly, a lot
you
of
said it.
younger guys. Yeah. And so I kind of wonder, I'm like, there's a lot of talk about expansion, but I'm like, man, like, is there enough talent in the league right now? I mean, it feels weird to say or even question how much talent there is in the league. There's a
Hmm.
phenomenal amount of talent in the league. But I do kind of worry. I'm like, is are we kind of reaching an inflection point where it's like, okay, maybe we need to kind of hold off a little bit? I don't know. I think
Yeah.
expansion is something that's just going to happen.
Hmm.
But I guess we could talk about some of the teams that we discussed now. I think Detroit has been somewhat a team that has been a bit of a disappointment, even though Cade has been starting to pick it up. Ivy has looked really good as a rookie, but sadly, like they've been 3-8, and they've been a bit of a disappointment. I would say even more so, a bit of more than a bit of a disappointment. Sadly, even after the Boyan trade, I felt like they would be able to tread water, especially on defense. They've been bad on defense, and
Hmm.
I knew their offense would not be where, I knew Cade was going to take another step, and a lot of people like to compare Cade to kind of like that Luka, type. But
Hmm.
frankly, I'm starting to question um, if this is the right role for him. I don't know about you, but I see this Pistons team as a team that is maybe having an identity crisis or will have an identity crisis soon, but I'm not sure what your thoughts are on the Detroit Pistons so far. Kind of a team that has disappointed me so far, because I did have not high expectations, but higher expectations. I felt like that they were going to take a step forward, maybe be a play-in team, maybe even, best case
Yeah.
scenario, fight for a playoff spot.
I feel you. I definitely was a little bit lower, but I was thinking more like I think what you said, the maybe the lower end outcome of like being a scrappy,
Right.
competitive team. At the very least, teams aren't going to come in your building and have an easy night playing the Detroit Pistons.
Yep.
That
Yep.
unfortunately has not been the case. They have the highest margin of defeat in the NBA. So that hasn't been what we expected. Teams have found it quite easy to go in Detroit and get a win there. But
Yeah.
like you said, it's a mix of a few things. And you touched on all of them. First, defense. I mean, they're 26 in points allowed per game. That's
Yep.
not great, right? Offense, even worse. They're 28th. They're putting, averaging 107.7, which were this like 2005, 2006 would be great. Good
Yep.
company. 107 points per game. We're doing great when teams are averaging, 80, 90 points. But this is horrible. Just to be in the top half of the league, you should be averaging closer to 110, 112. So you're just not cutting it. And the bench scoring has been bad. I mean, you have some bounce scoring among the top five. I think you have at least 12 points per game coming from every one of, Cade Cunningham, Sadiq Bey,
Right.
Bojan Bogdanovic has been great. They've been really solid. But aside from that, off the bench, I mean, it's Jalen Duren who's leading the way at 7.4 points per game.
An 18
I
year
mean,
old.
an 18-year-old rookie leading the way at
Yeah.
7 points per game. That's not great. And he's
Yeah.
also one of only two players off the bench shooting at least 40% from the field. And he's a big
Right.
guy, so you would expect that from him. But
Right.
that's it. I mean, Hamidou Diallo is the other guy, and Hamidou Diallo is a talented wing player in terms of maybe getting to the basket, athletic, but we know he's not a great shooter, right?
Right.
So that's not good for him. And of course, you look at injuries maybe to a Marvin Bagley and Alec Burks as well. Guys who,
Hmm.
Alec Burks more so, but are known for bringing scoring punch off the bench. So maybe that will be helpful when they come back from, when they return. But I'm with you. It's just been a perfect kind of cornucopia of it's just incidents between all of these aspects that have made this team what it is right now, which is it's not pretty, like you said, and it's not what I expected for sure. And like you said, according to what you were looking at, definitely not what you were expecting. So yeah,
Absolutely.
there's room for improvement. Maybe there's still time. Only 10 games. You got to keep hope alive.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm with you 100%. Another team in the Eastern Conference that I have found very fascinating
Mm,
is the 7-3 Atlanta Hawks. And
yes.
the Hawks, they made a splashy move this offseason, went to go get, DeJounte Murray, who's a talented, talented guard. And I think we all um kind of question what the fit would be like. I certainly questioned. My first inclination was thinking, is Trey going to play off the ball more? And I'm sure a lot of people, felt the same way as well. And I wanted to kind of get your thoughts, because we've seen Trey finally, it's been marginal. We've seen it, but he's moving more so off the ball, and he's relocating. He's playing off of DeJounte Murray. Now, I would love to say John Collins, but John Collins, his usage has been absolutely down. He's averaging only 13 points per game. And it's been a confusing start to the team, to the year, because they're 7-3. Their schedule has been kind of soft. DeAndre Hunter is exploring the studio space, as they like to say, especially after his extension. AJ Griffin is starting to, get his wheels and what's the saying? Wheels under himself,
Yep,
whatever.
yes, yep,
Yeah,
settle that way. Hmm.
yeah, exactly. And I feel like they have quality depth. But I wanted to just kind of, see what you think about the Atlanta Hawks so far, what they've been so far, and maybe even what you see them, as a regular season team throughout the year, and then also maybe a playoff team.
Yeah, I mean, they've been a team that I've been impressed by. I honestly was a little bit more down on them heading
Same.
into the year. I just didn't think I didn't like the fit between DeJounte and Trey Young. And I think you kind of get that as well. I wasn't as optimistic that Trey Young would play off the ball as well. And I also was not high on the off ball abilities of DeJounte Murray.
Yeah.
And I think between the two of them, Trey Young is a better playmaker. So I'm like, what are you going to do? Like, he's a nice guy if you're bringing DeJounte Murray as the bridge between playing alongside Trey Young as the off guard and then manning second units. But
Mm-hmm.
I didn't think it would work as well as it has. And I think it's been great between the two of them, not only because you've had a little more of a willingness from Trey Young to play off ball, but also, DeJounte Murray shooting pretty robust for him, 35% from three on just under 7 attempts per game.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he's getting them up. And mind you, this is small sample size theater, is 10 games, but still, the fact that he's making that shot and that's leading to the confidence of him to take that shot, which is opening up the floor and helping out Trey Young as well. So the bounce those two have had, we saw in preseason, has been pretty nice. I didn't know how sustainable it was going to be, but so far, it's been as advertised.
Yeah.
DeAndre Hunter's found ways to kind of fill in and kind of find his place in between that as well, and that's been big. Unfortunately, the two people who have been marginalized the most on it are the bigs, John Collins and Clint Capella. Clint
Yeah.
Capella not as big of a deal. He does anchor the defense really good there, leading the team in rebounding. He brings other things to the table in a way that are more of his role. But
Yep.
John Collins, I mean, this is the guy, like you said, usage down. When he is scoring the ball, low 50%, in terms of effective field, well, middle of the pack in terms of effective field goal percentage, 27% from three. That's not cutting it at all. So, when he is handling the ball or having the ball, it's not necessarily turning out well for him. And you're right, it's the DeJounte Murray and Trey Young show. And you see moments where Collins, missed a read there. Oh, could have had him here. And it's just like, okay, hang in the dunker spot up, do some rebounding, garbage points. And
Yep.
I don't know. It's again, he is somebody in terms of like a maybe disgruntled, maybe not big on a team that doesn't utilize him as well as you think. The other would be Miles Turner, Indiana, that I look at so
The
interesting.
perennial first team all trade me now, but I'm gonna
Yes,
eventually just stay here because the team manager
exactly.
traded.
Because we have no way. Exactly. For one reason or another, you're not getting traded. But by all accounts, you should be because the vibes are not immaculate. You said
new
it.
new
The,
era Brooke Lopez.
those two are the starting forwards on that team.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, like I think that the bench, like you said, AJ Griffin being free and flourishing from a role
Yeah.
that I think many envision him as a shooter, somebody who's finishing plays, and they have a nice little back line. I love the Holiday brothers come off the bench.
Yeah. Yeah.
Kongu has had solid minutes, playing the five, being a really good rim protector. So they have a nice unit, enough to be, I think, top four in the East, definitely.
Yeah.
As long as that balance works out well defensively, they're going to run into some real threats. I think they haven't had that as of yet, in terms of backcourts that are really going to try Trey Young and
Yeah.
DeJounte Murray, where you can't hide Trey Young and DeJounte Murray might be overmatched physically on a bigger, stronger guard. And then you might run into some trouble there with only DeAndre Hunter as your last kind of, go-to defender, aside from Justin Holiday, of course. But aside from that, I think that they're a very interesting team that is for better. I mean, I guess outperformed expectations. I think most people thought the Hawks would be kind of in the middle of the pack and were
Yeah.
higher than I was. They definitely outperformed what I thought they would be.
Agreed. It's funny because their numbers suggest they're 12th in offensive rating. They're
Mhm.
14th in defensive rating, but they're 7-3. Opponents really are not shooting well against them, so maybe we'll see that,
A little regression to the mean.
a little
Yeah.
regression to the mean. But I am I'm going to continue to be fascinated with this team, specifically with the way they implement John Collins, and hopefully we start to see a revival of his offensive game, because Lord knows they need it,
They do.
especially in the playoffs. And it's it's we'll keep an eye out on them. But I wanted to maybe touch base on the Western Conference. Were there any teams on that side of the nation where you felt like they were a disappointment? They have actually maybe exceeded expectations for you.
I would have to say, I mean, this is a team that I was low on already. I
Yeah.
didn't. They made a big splash, as we know, in the offseason. I did think it was going to work out well. And so far it has not. Mind you, I feel like I maybe was on the other end of the spectrum because I was like,
Yeah.
this isn't going to be a successful experiment. Most people are like, oh, Timberwolves, which is the team in question here, we're definitely going to be playing better. But for whatever reason, not only are they not, although they have a uniquely constructed roster, they are 5-6 right now. They're currently, as we speak, being blown out by the Phoenix
Oof.
Suns. Yep, another brutal
Oof.
loss. You've heard complaints from Anthony Edwards, especially. You've seen snipes from Karl Anthony Towns. The vibes do not look great. The starting five off on numbers are horrific.
Yeah.
And it just isn't working out. Whether you could say it's team character, is that hard? Is that some of the intangibles on the floor? Is it the lack of spacing around a too big lineup that maybe not is not working as well in the defensive end as it should?
Hmm.
Is it D'Angelo Russell not having a great year? I think everyone just assumed, myself included, that he would have a better year because of contract year, but we haven't seen that happen either. And statistically, Anthony Edwards, who has not only had frustration, saying, "Hey, I can't get to the basket like I want to, I can't dunk," he's feeding into his more negative inhibitions of launching mid-range jumpers and outside jumpers because it's like, hey, I can't get to the basket, so guess we're going to have to settle. And if you look at him playing the game, you could see sort of why. Um,
Yeah.
at the same time, you look at the numbers, and I expected a huge jump from Ant, this year, and it's actually almost identical to his sophomore year numbers, which, while good, aren't the jump that anyone expected or the Timberwolves would have needed to have gotten rid of so many of their perimeter players and now playing this type of style.
Yep, absolutely. I feel like his impact hasn't been felt. I feel like in reports show that oh 10. Ooh,
Mm,
I guess we'll have to be quick.
okay.
What a bummer.
How do we
This is
get into it?
this is what happens when yeah, anyways, let's not waste time.
Another time, yeah.
But I felt like Jaden McDaniels was a swing piece for them, because I really thought, Ant aside, Gobert aside, Cat aside, he was the guy that was going to bring it all together. He was going to be their three man that said, "Hey, okay, he's a phenomenal defensive player, but offensively, I felt like he was going to take a step. He was going to be less more consistent, I would say, as a shooter. He would be more willing as a shooter, especially from the 3-point arc, but also as a attacker, as a driver, as someone who was attacking closeouts and feeding off of the drives that or the opportunities that Cat creates, and even D'Angelo and Anthony create, and Gobert as well. Like I just felt like the it was a ripe setting for him to really take the next step, and we haven't seen that from him. And I feel like the spacing issues, while it has devolved into a team issue, I felt like if he was able to take a step forward as a shooter, a lot of this would be alleviated.
Agreed.
Sadly, yeah,
No, it's true, and that's one guy I look to step up the most. I think, however, the fit between Karl Anthony Towns, who's been getting up his threes, he's doing that, and Gobert, who, I mean, I wish had more of a. I mean, we knew what Gobert was, so it's like, oh, I wish he had a little bit of an outside jumper. Gobert was what he was. Like when they traded for Gobert, the Timberwolves knew exactly what they were getting,
yeah,
and that's why they gave the treasure trove of draft picks, rotation players, and prospects to get him right. But I think if you're looking at players who need to step up for the Timberwolves to improve, you're looking at the perimeter guys. D'Lo, let's make some more veteran point guard plays and not turn over the ball so carelessly. And let's not settle. Let's be more aggressive and not kind of spacewalk through some of the game. And then Jay McDaniels, like you said, we need to be more aggressive. 2 threes a game is not going to cut it for someone who's spacing or potential space is going to be integral to the operation of this team's offensive.
yeah.
The operation, I'm forgetting what I was going to say, is key to the team's operation of their offense. There we go.
Yeah.
Third time's a charm.
There you go. They're going to be fascinating. I really do feel like they missed the depth of Malik Beasley,
Yeah,
Patrick Beverly, Jared Vanderbilt, who
big
played a
loss.
phenomenal role for
He's
them.
shooting threes in Utah.
Um, yeah, absolutely. And I just feel like they I don't want to write them off in terms of a playoff team, but I frankly just don't. I feel like they're right back at square one, and now they have emptied the cupboard, and I'm a little worried about, like, Ant has to hit. Like,
Mm-hmm.
literally, he has to turn into a superstar for
Mm-hmm.
this to work. And I think it was. I understand why they put all their eggs in the basket. I really do, because Ant is that kind of guy.
Mm-hmm.
But I think they may have accelerated the timeline a little too early on their part in order for them to go all in, because I said this on another pod, but frankly, this was like an ownership splashy move by the new ownership to
Mm-hmm.
say, hey, we're going to go out and get Rudy Gobert. We're going to go out and get this new GM. We're going to make our imprint on this team. And frankly, decisions like that could lead to good outcomes, and we might see that or not. I don't know if this team grows or not. But frankly, when you make impulsive decisions like that, it kind of leads to um, uh, mismanagement sometimes. But
Yeah,
we'll
yeah,
see. We're only 10 games in, but we shall see.
absolutely. Ali, you said it.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Were there any other teams in the Western Conference you felt like have exceeded expectations? I know Utah might win a championship. Who knows?
Yeah, yeah. Utah right now. I mean, a lot of their shooting numbers. I mean, right now Kelly Olynyk's shooting like 67% on catch
Yeah,
and shoot. Like
yeah,
that's not going to be
yeah,
sustainable.
yeah.
But at the same time, like Colin Sexton shooting like in the 20s from catch and shoot, which is like roughly the average of the Lakers' entire roster from outside
Yep.
right now. So I'm sure there's going to be some kind of progression to the mean in that way. But the Jazz right now are a scrappy team. I thought they could be okay. I just assumed, as I'm sure we all did, that they would kind of start scrapping the team and then kind of working toward tanking for Wembanyama. But right now, this is a team that looks like the 2014 Suns or the 2013 Nuggets, like
Yeah.
teams that everyone thought were going to be toward the bottom. And hey, they still had scrappy players, a scheme that works, a coach that's inventive. It all comes together, and this team right now are right among the top of the Western Conference.
Yep. Absolutely. And they're doing it with a bunch of two guards, which is
Exactly,
hilarious.
exactly. Two
I
guards in a spacing four.
exactly. It's been very fascinating. But hats off to Will Hardy for being able to, I forget who someone made this really good point, but you look at a roster like Utah and you see a lot of their deficiencies, right?
Yep.
But Will Hardy walked into that locker room and said, no, I see a lot of things that can actually fit into a productive offensive and defensive
Mm-hmm.
system. And he has extracted the most out of from both sides of the ball and all those players involved. So it's been really nice to see even THT look really confident, as
Yep.
someone that the Lakers just dumped. In order,
Yep.
yeah, yeah,
Slammed all on the Lakers' face this past week.
yeah,
Just, I
yeah.
mean,
Oh,
he's been
yeah,
good. So many
that
guys
was me.
stepping up. Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
So I agree with you completely. That's a surprise. And honestly, we don't even got to talk about the Lakers. Let's end this on a high. Let's talk Utah. And how cool they are. And now it just remains to be seen if they're going to continue. If front office ownership, go, hey, wait a second. We're not winning a championship with this team, but let's see where we can go. Let's ride this thing out. Or okay, it's been nice. Now let's
Yeah,
let's start
pull
moving
the
some
plug.
folks.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I do think that they're waiting for the right time. And
Hmm.
uh, I'm not sure if Danny Ainge gives off the type of vibe where he's like like his ultimate decision is to tank.
Yeah.
I don't, and correct me if I'm wrong. I don't, outside of the Marcus Smart year where they got him in this as the sixth pick.
Hmm.
They didn't really tank much.
Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
No. And so I wonder if, like, this is just kind of him picking and choosing his spots. And obviously the market is going to settle down. A lot of teams are going to start to move into asset accumulation or just trading off their pieces, and guys are going to become available, and the trade market is going to start to really heat up. The buyout market is going to start to heat up. So I'll be interested to see. A lot of these teams are wing needy. Who knows where, what might happen, but Boyan
Mhm.
has already been on the move. Mike Conley, there are teams that are going to need pieces, and I feel like they're not going to move forward without getting something in return that's actually tangible, because you could have a fire sale and then get rock bottom. But
Yep.
frankly, I do think that their priority is to get the most out of their current assets on the roster. But talking about a happy note, Colin Sexton, I just want to
Yes.
say,
Young bull.
young bull, shout out to him. He has been phenomenal. I wanted to just make a note about his. We talk a lot about his on-ball game. We talk a lot about how his offensive game has improved. He's coming back from injury, a serious injury at that, missing the entirety of the year pretty much.
Yeah.
Um, his his ability to play off the ball now has grown so much, and I think he gets an interesting he has an interesting reputation around the league and even through fans. But
Mhm.
his evolution as a player, and we're going to continue seeing this as he starts to get his legs under him even more so after the injury. Like,
Yeah.
he's really turned himself into a phenomenal player, and it's really nice to see that. I'm really happy for him. I'm happy for a lot of the guys that are coming back from injury. Zion, Jamal Murray, you see the smiles on their faces. You saw
Yeah.
them at media day.
The
Like, it's just
joy.
good for the league to have that joy. And I'm excited, and it's been a phenomenal year so far. I mean, I wish we had more time to talk about Luca
I
and
know.
what I mean.
All of them.
It's there's a lot going on,
Another
but
time for sure.
another
Absolutely.
time we will definitely be back. Um, I guess we'll close off on a pretty good note. I just wanted to thank you, to everyone tuning in. Could be on Stitcher, could be on wherever you listen to your podcast, YouTube, whatever the case may be. Corban, I want to thank you first and foremost for taking the
Always,
time out
man.
of your day to join us on the podcast.
Of course.
Again, we have a sponsorship with Bet99. Check out their work, check out the website. And obviously, check out notradeclause.com, where we break down the business of basketball. If you ever see a graphic or anything, that's me, and so yeah, and it was an absolute pleasure talking to you, and hey, we'll be back.
We will. Appreciate it. Thank you so
All right,
much.
man. Take care, man.
Take care. All right.